There it is up there. Nope, that's not the one. This is the one. Okay, and
Oh my God. My friend.
what happened?
Nothing.
Okay. Like, oh, she says, "Oh my God, what happened?" Nothing. Sound just like my wife. Like, are you kidding me? You just scared the heck out of me. You said nothing.
I think we are live now on Facebook.
So
Right, Nayeli?
I'm putting it to, I'm doing it right now.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Okay, we are live.
Awesome, because I would like to share that in our social media as well. Okay.
Good morning, Maestro community. I want to welcome you all to our webinar series. We're very excited for today's speaker, and I will let our speakers introduce themselves, but just to give you a little background, I'd like to welcome all of you. If you are watching because you're a member of the UTSA community, I want to give you a little information on the Maestro Entrepreneur Center. My name is Leslie Rangel. I am the programs director here. And we really primarily focus on helping minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses in their about second year of structure, kind of focusing on providing you with the resources that you need to take your business, accelerate your business to the next level. We really focus on connecting people with other business leaders in the community. And so that's just a little bit about Maestro Entrepreneur Center. I will say that we have a construction conference coming up on April 29th and 30th. So if you're interested in coming, please shoot me an email. And if you're interested in becoming a speaker, shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you. So with that, I will go ahead and introduce Roxanna Gomez, who is a Senior Business Development Specialist at UTSA's Minority Business Development Center.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you so much to all of you that are here connected in this webinar. We really appreciate your time this morning. And honestly, this is a very good advantage that you have to take, because this is probably the final presentation that we are going to do about the PPP loan and the latest update about this. And later, my coworker Halbert, he's going to tell us a little bit more about that. But besides of that, I would like to share with you that my name is Roxanna Gomez. I work for the MBDA COVID-19 Business Resilience Center. And besides our center, there are 3 more centers that are part of the MBDA here in San Antonio. We have the MBDA Export Center that is mainly focusing helping small businesses that want to do some international trade with Central and South America. Also, we have the Manufacturing Center that is mainly focusing helping businesses in this industry. We also have the business in general, and now the COVID-19 Business Resilience Center. We are here to help you. We are here to provide different services regarding to access to capital, access to new markets, social media strategies, and many others. And the good thing about this is everything is for free. And because why? Because we are under the funds of the US Department of Commerce. So this program is already paid. So if you want to take advantage of our services, please contact us. I'm pretty sure we are going to share our contact information and let us know how we can help you. And I would like to thank Leslie and her team for putting this event together. And I'm pretty sure you are going to join this. Thank you.
very good. And my name is Halbert Brown, and I'm the project manager at the Minority Business Development Agency COVID-19 Business Resilience Center. Roxanna is my exceptional coworker, We've developed a great relationship with our friends at Maestro Entrepreneur Center, and we want to thank them definitely for partnering with us to bring this information to the community. The program we're doing today, they have changes every week. I see changes coming through. So what we're going to talk about today is what I know as of yesterday. And I did look at the Small Business Administration website again last night and some more this morning, but there are changes happening all the time. I want to welcome everybody, and that's from the Maestro community and from the UTSA, the MBDA community. Some of you may not have attended some of these webinars. So what we want to do is try to give a broad look at the PPP program. I'm going to go talk about some of the requirements and things like that. I'm going to talk about forgiveness terms. I'm going to talk about eligibility. We're going to talk about how to apply, when should you apply, yesterday, but we'll keep going anyway. But anyway, we want to talk to you today about the final push for PPP, things you need to know, okay? Now, my background is in business ownership. I'm a college professor and SCORE volunteer for 9 years. And I've even worked on a program with SBDA with SBA for 5 years, helping strategically plan business owners in their programs. And now I'm also a college professor at Texas A&M San Antonio. So I have some experience in business, and I teach in the School of Business right now. So I come to you with quite a bit of a good background for what we're talking about today. I've been keeping up with this Paycheck Protection Program and the Eidl information and all the new programs and grant opportunities coming up. I try to stay abreast of all of that because we partner with Small Business Administration on a variety of topics as well. Just like Leslie was saying, we have upcoming webinars also. We try to have at least 2 webinars each month. Roxanna is very good about putting those together. In many cases, we try to partner with some of our resource partners within the community. So be looking out for those. I'm sure we'll have your email address, so we'll make sure to get you on our contact list. We'll send you the information out so you'll be ready when the time comes for the next presentation and those that follow for both organizations. At this time, we kind of have to do a disclaimer. This presentation is not designed, nor should it be received as advice. I can give you business advice, but I'm not telling anybody what to do in this program. I would say seek out your lender, your CPA, maybe your tax attorney, and talk about these issues. We're not here to tell you how to do things and give you the best advice. You should do this with your business. We're just going to go on our experiences, what we've seen in the program, give you a broad look at the program. Also, to comply with certain U.S. Treasury regulations, like the Circular 230, we want to make sure that you, unless expressly stated here, none of this information should be intended or used to say, I'm going to avoid penalties because I went to this program, or substantiate some claims of forgiveness later on down the line. That's not what this is either. We don't do any of that. All we do is provide information, try to answer questions the best we can, and make sure that you're at least getting the most updated information that we have available at the time. What was the purpose of the PPP program? Paycheck Protection Program. It's just what it says. This program came about because of our coronavirus pandemic back in 2020. Around March 27th, of course, is when they signed the first act into law and started hurriedly putting money into the communities. Well, that didn't go too well for them, because as soon as the people started knowing that there was all this money available, the bigger companies had very good relationships with lending institutions. So they rushed in there and got a bunch of that money very quickly, which made Congress go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, we need to do another round of this, and we need to try to figure out how to target it for the true smallest of small businesses. And they come out with another Flexibility Act in June 5th, 2020. And that allowed more smaller businesses to get some of the funding that was out there. These funds, the other part of it that made it a challenge, the lending institutions, banks, credit unions, other CDFIs, and all these folks, they had some problems getting everything ready. Even the SBA, they were just told by the Department of the Treasury, look, put this program in place, get that money out there, because businesses were shutting down, and they wanted to make sure not to just crash the economy in the United States. So they got the money out there hurriedly, and then changes started to come about that made them get better at making sure the program is running. It was a challenge. It's still a challenge because there's trillions of dollars still flowing into the system because the Department of Treasury and the administration in office and Congress are working together to just get money into the communities, because, and they're particularly targeting hard hit areas and minority owned business ownerships like that, because once again, they don't get the funding usually as well as some of the bigger organizations. So the December 27th of 2020, the Economic Aid for Hard Hit Small Businesses, Nonprofits, and Venues Act came out. It's signed into law. And now with Joe Biden administration coming in, they've put another almost $2 trillion into the system to help out. With that signing, more money flowed into the PPP system. And guess what? It created more changes within the system. So I'm telling you, it's to keep up with it, it takes quite a bit. Here's a little bit of what we're going to discuss today. We will not go in great detail in all of these because, as you can see, there are quite a few forms that come about. You have various application forms depending on what type of filer you are, depending on what type of business you are. We want to talk about the PPP forgiveness and the forgiveness applications. We'll at least give you what they are. There they are right there. You might ought to take a picture of that slide if you're looking at it, because we will not go into deeply into the forgiveness applications this time, that we just don't have enough time. But I can tell you that if you do things the right way, you can be forgiven of all the money that you get in the PPP program. And more importantly, that's what we're here to talk about today. How to make sure that, one, you get the loan if you qualify for it, but then two, how to make sure you don't have to pay it back toward the end, okay? Whenever you've expended the funds, when you've used them to keep your payroll, keep your employees on payroll and things like that. Some of the spending rules are, and this is just a broad look at it, when you get that money from the lending institution, they want you to spend at least 60% of it on payroll costs and things associated with payroll. And 40% of it would be spent on other business related expenses. When they first came out with it before June 5th, you had to take care of this and pay it back within 2 years. Well, anything after June 5th, they give you 5 years. But one of the things they've agreed to do, and the new legislations that have come about, if you had the 2-year requirement, you can extend it out to 5 years too. You also had either 8 weeks or 24 weeks to use the funding. You still have those opportunities, 8 or 24 weeks, depending on what you might need, knowing your business model, and you make your determination based on that. So the Paycheck Protection Program is here to make sure that our small business owners can keep their workforce employed. All right. Now, these loans, right now, they're going to March 31st. They've started back around January 11th for the smallest of small minority businesses. They opened it up for a period of time just for the small businesses. And then a couple of weeks later, week and a half, 2 weeks later, they opened it up for the rest of the small businesses. Then when the new administration came in, they said, well, you know what? We want to make sure the smallest of the small business get a bunch of this money that's out there. So what they did, they put a pause on the whole program for 2 weeks. And then they said only business owners that have less than 20 employees can apply during this period of time. And they opened it up for 2 weeks. Hopefully everybody that had less than 20 people were able to get in there and apply at that time. And then after that 2 weeks, they've now opened it up to everybody. One thing I did notice while they were shut down for the bigger, smaller businesses during that time period, the approvals were going through very fast. I know I had one client, these folks, they decided to put in for the PPP on Friday. On Monday, they had their approval already. And that's super fast. But now that they've opened it back up for everybody else, it might take a few days longer, maybe even a week or two, but it's open back up for everybody now. So if you qualify, and we'll talk to you about some of those qualifications, then make sure you apply. Some more of the changes that have come about when it comes to the American Rescue Plan, and this was the legislation I was telling you that Congress pushed over to the new administration when it came in, and they signed it into law just last week. They put an additional $7.25 billion into the PPP program. $7.25 billion. That's we're tweaking some big numbers here because that program was 2.9 trillion, or 1.9 trillion, I'm sorry, 1.9 trillion, $2 trillion. They also put more funds in this program called the Shuttered Venue Operations Grant. Now this program is not online yet. And each time I talk with SBA, they just tell me that they're still working out all the details and trying to get all the particulars, the application procedures on all this stuff, trying to get it all lined out. So when this program is launched, they don't have all the problems like we did with the PPP when it was first opened up, because it was quite traumatic for the SBA, for lenders, and for the people that were applying for the programs. Everybody was kind of struggling. There's an additional $15 billion is aimed at the targeted economic injury disaster loan. We call it the EIDL. And with that, talking about the targeted funds, if you were not able to get EIDL in the first go round, but you had an application in there, SBA personnel are looking at those applications, trying to see if somebody was overlooked, and they're sending emails to people, letting them know that what all the processes they need to do to get that EIDL, to get that loan. Now that one would be paid back, and there's some specific things that have to be done there. So we won't go into the specifics today on this program because this is about PPP, but they did put, as you see, an additional $15 billion toward that program. And then some of the new things, they put a bunch of money, 28 billion in there for restaurant revitalization. They also put 100 million in there to help in the different communities with a program that's going to allow for grants for any organizations that are helping out with assistance of COVID-19. And I'm wondering, I know for a fact, well, we know we were notified that we're going to get a little more funding in our program. And I believe that might be why, because we got over 2 times. They're planning to give us a little more than 2 times what we got to start the program, and that's beautiful. Let's talk about then the first draw. Who's eligible to get the money in the first draw? Because you have a first draw in PPP and you have a second draw. Anything I talk to you about from here on in, you can go in any of this. You can go to the Small Business Administration website at sba.gov. Small Business Administration website at sba.gov. Go there, you can find all of this information because it's updated continuously. So one of the things I can tell you that some people may not even thought they qualified because, oh, I'm a sole proprietor. Well, I'm an independent contractor. Well, as you can see, This form, I snipped this off so I can at least show you who qualifies. You can see that on SBA form 2483, revised just this month, sole proprietors can get it, partnerships, corps, C corps, S corps, LLCs, independent contractors, and any other unemployed personnel. They made sure to let you know that nonprofits, 501c3s are eligible now, 501c6 organizations like what are they, chambers of commerce and people like that, 501c19 veterans organizations, and tribal businesses, opening it up to more people that are truly affected negatively by COVID-19. Okay, so this is big, and there's plenty of money out there. So if you're in one of those categories and you didn't think you qualify, this application here, the SBA form 2483, makes you aware that you qualify. One of the things I have to tell you when I'm looking at the thing, I'm not going to look at the whole application today, once again, because we don't have the time. But when you're filling out this form and the other forms that follow, they're asking you for some specific information about your business. They need that information. With that information, some of it's financial, some of it's personal. There's a questionnaire at the end that's going to go deep into your life, into your personal life, and all of this stuff. If you refuse to answer any of that stuff, they're not going to allow you to get the money. They need that to determine eligibility. Whatever those questions are that they're asking you, the information they're requesting in the application itself on the first page, second page is that questionnaire. You got to answer those truthfully, because if they run checks and find out otherwise, then there may be some penalties coming after that. Okay, so make sure to fill out whatever they're requesting. And if you see check blocks in there, the things that you've done and you know you've done these things, like one of the things I like to tell people, when you're looking at the purpose of the loans themselves, payroll costs, you check that block. Some of the other things, rent, mortgage, interest, you check that block. I use it for utilities, you make sure to check that block. I'm going to use it for covered operations expenditures. That's the cost of doing business. Okay, and you need to make sure to keep your documentation, because you might not need it right now, but you may need it at some point during an audit. If you had property damage, somehow there was some vandalism and things like that because your business was closed down for a little bit and maybe somebody vandalized it and tried to break in because they were hungry or whatever it might have been, that's in there. Some supplier costs are in there, some protection for employee, if you have to protect people from COVID-19, if you have to insure people, different stuff like that, that's in there. Payroll, taxes and stuff like that, that's in there, but it's not your portion as a business owner, the portion for the business, the employees, you could add that in there. And then some other things might be available, but they're asking you all kinds of questions on that document, and please answer them, and answer them truthfully. Okay, that's important in this program. There's another one. I've talked to some business owners, and as a matter of fact, this week and last week, that they say, well, I had a negative balance sheet. I'm a sole proprietor, or I'm an independent contractor, or I'm whatever I might be. And I really, when I do everything, it shows that I didn't make any money last year. Well, there's another way. You can look at the PPP first draw, the SBA form 2483C. If you're a Schedule C filer, you can use your gross income to do your calculations. Now, I'm gonna tell you at this point, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, and I'm not in the bank, in the lending operations where I can walk you through that process to determine whether or not you're Schedule C, or what you need to do if you're Schedule C. I just know that if you're a Schedule C filer, you can apply as well. And then what they're looking at there, they're looking at a different part of the form that you file, like block 7A or block 7 or something like that. And then you do your calculations based on that amount. Because if you're in that block 7, if you showed some type of a profit for that period of time, then you can apply that to the formula and still be eligible to receive some funding from that. So that's a big change in the setup here also for PPP, is to make sure that if you're a Schedule C filer, so that's the thing to talk to your CPA about. Oh, am I a Schedule C filer? If you are, then you qualify for it, the money to be calculated a different way, and they're not just going to look at the overall what you get, whether or not you were profitable for that year. And that's important, because that'll bring a lot more people into the fold when it comes to them being able to get lending and getting assistance, financial assistance. So even if you had a negative balance sheet for the end of the year, certain portions of the year you might not have. So make sure you search out that with your CPA. Okay, we'll go back to it. Same thing. Who may qualify? Sole proprietorships, independent contractors, self-employed personnel, small businesses, any small businesses that meet SBA size standards. Their size standards are usually 500 or less employees. And if you have more than 500 employees, then they have different industry specific sizes that could qualify for some of the money. And then if you're 501c3, 501c6, 501c19, and then the tribal businesses, looking at section 31B2C. Okay, I know we go through that very fast because I know for sure I don't have a tremendous amount of time, but I want to make sure to get through everything I can. I believe Ms. Roxanna will make this presentation available for people. And that way you'll at least be able to read through it and pick out what might apply to you, and then call and talk to the expert, talk to your CPA, talk to a business advisor that's helping people complete these packages and things like that. And then at the bottom there on this slide, I'm talking about the businesses with the NAIC codes of 72. You're looking at accommodation type organizations and food services, restaurants and hotels and all these type places. They qualify for some of this money as well. They have different formulas for them. And we'll talk about that a little bit later too. Then we come to the second draw. Now, if you decided back whenever in 2020 that you wanted to get funding, you applied for and you received PPP, all right? You used it by the end of December like you were supposed to. Or you applied for forgiveness and nothing has happened yet. Well, you qualify for a second draw. Now let's talk about this a little bit, because I see in there, I have in there that the loan terms are the same as the first draw. The terms of that loan from the beginning is only 1%. It's 1% for everybody. It doesn't matter about your credit reference or your credit rating or anything like that. The loan interest on that loan is 1% from the beginning. So pretty much it's almost a dollar for dollar loan. But if you use it the correct way, then you'll get it all written off. It'll be similar to a grant. Okay, so and in the second draw, it's the same. 1% is where it is. Same thing, you use it for payroll costs, you're using it for benefits, mortgage interest, rent, utilities, worker protection costs, uninsured property, all of the same thing as I said before. Up to 2.5 times your monthly average from 2019 or 2020 payroll, up to $2 million. That's how much money you can get out of it. And second draw, same people. If you look at that little picture I have over there, you see the sole proprietor, you see the partnerships, you see Corp, S Corp, LLC, independent contractor, self-employed individuals, and then all the 501Cs and housing cooperatives and tribal. All of those are important. Also for the second draw, you see the SBA form 2483 SD. That's what you're going to see whenever you're trying to do a second draw. You want to make sure to use the right form. Okay, so if you received the first draw and you will use it or have used it all, just like it was authorized, the 60-40 split, you have no more than 300 employees, and you can make a determination that you had at least a 25% reduction in your gross receipts when you compare quarter to quarter to 2019 to 2020. You have to, if you're showing first quarter of 2019, then you have to show first quarter of 2020 also. You can't go first quarter of 2019 and third quarter of 2020, quarter to quarter. And if you can show a 25% reduction in gross receipts, plus you have no more than 300 employees, and you use the first draw the correct way, then you qualify for a second draw. Okay. That's quite a bit. And I need to stop and breathe for a minute. Whew. Once again, we go into the same thing with the second draw. There will be filers that didn't know for sure if they qualified. There you go with the same form, except they put a C on it. You have the Schedule C filers. And when you look at the people that check in the block, it's going to be mostly your sole proprietors, your independent contractors, and your self-employed individuals. And you've likely filed a Schedule C. Again, I'm not a CPA. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lender helping people to fill out these documents. But following the rules, if you fall into one of these categories, if you check one of those categories in that first block there, you may be qualified to receive the first draw. And that's the SBA Form 2483-SD-C. And it's used the same way. And you can get it up to 2.5 times your monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll, up to $2 million, except if you're in an NAICS code beginning with 72, and that's going to be your accommodations and food services type industries. You can multiply it by 3.5 times when you're working the formula. And that's important for a lot of businesses. And the same thing, up to 2 million is what they would be able to draw on that. Okay. Understanding that the forms that you have to complete to get the loan in the beginning or from the second draw, if you've already used the forms in the first draw or used the funds in the first draw, you have to now figure, let's see, what do I need to do to get this loan forgiveness? Well, after you use the funds, whether it's a first draw or a second draw, you have 10 months before you have to make a decision. You have 10 months before you need to apply for the loan forgiveness. Okay, you have up to 10 months. So don't wait until one day before to start doing this. If you know you're going to apply for forgiveness, and I don't know who wouldn't, but if you know you're going to apply for forgiveness, maybe start it at the 9 month or the 9.5 months, something like that. So you give it a few weeks to get through the system to make sure things are going well. But you have to use up to 40% of the funds toward the information that's included on this slide. And this is because you have 60%. I told you what that was: your mortgage interest, your rent, your payroll, and some of the business expenses for doing what did I call it? The cost of doing business. Some of those type things. But now, payroll cost does not include Social Security, Medicare, and unemployment. It also doesn't apply if you have at least 2% ownership within the corporation or the S Corp or the LLC. If you have at least 2% ownership, you cannot deduct health expenses for yourself or for your family. You have for your employees and stuff like that. You can use some of that, but not for yourself and your family members. You can get loan forgiveness on interest and mortgage obligations if you have the mortgage before February 15th, 2020. Same thing on real estate and real property. You had a lease in place before February 15th, 2020. You can use it for some gas, water, electric, telephone, and things like that. Interest on transportation. You can use it in some of those. And you'll need to talk to the lenders, people from SBA, and the business advisors that are actually walking people through the process of filling these documents out. There's several of them out there. You'll have to justify, justification is required at some point in this process. In the beginning, you might not have to supply too much. Each lending institution has their own, for instance, if you're going to get an SBA loan of any type, and you go from bank to credit union, all of them have a different setup when it comes to their forms they want to see and their documentation that they want to see. Similarly, with the PPP forgiveness and the PPP program, the institutions have their own way of doing business. They know when they want to see documentation from the individuals and things like that. So if they give you a list at some point and say, hey, or if they call you or email you and say, hey, we need this document or something like that, get them that document as quickly as you can. And the one thing I say to all of our clients when I talk to them, and to anybody I talk to that inquires about PPP, make sure you keep very good records. Make sure you keep your payroll records, even if you're just paying yourself. Make sure you keep good payroll records, make it electronically if you have to. Make sure you keep good bank account information. If you're still using checks, make sure you keep canceled checks or whatever it might be, because at some point you may have to produce those documents as justification for trying to get forgiveness. Documentation, documentation, documentation. I can't tell you enough times to make sure you keep good documentation, okay? Okay, we're at this point, what do you do today then? Well, the first thing I'd say to do right now is go to sba.gov, go to the SBA website and see if you qualify. Read all of that information on eligibility requirements for first draw PPP. Well, if you've received the first draw PPP, then see what it takes to get the second draw and see if you qualify for that. Speak with business advisors that, like us at MBDA, like our folks at our good friends at Maestro Center. We also have the Small Business Administration, SCORE. Some of the SCORE counselors are helping people with this. SBDC, they have people that are helping. They have counselors that are helping with this. They have what they call a COBRA Center, and it's COVID-19 related system just like ours. They have another group of people that do just like we do. And they're doing these webinars. They're also doing panel discussions and things like that. And we partner with a lot of our presentations over the last 6-8 months. So that's been going well too. One note though, the SBA is saying that at least 80% of small businesses so far took advantage of either PPP, EIDL, or both in 2020. They have made a significant impact in the business community. And of course, the politicians can get credit for it because although they don't like working with each other, but they know good and well, they need to do something with all of these businesses shuttering up their doors and not being able to be there for the community. So they've had to force these issues through, and they try to keep it as low as possible. But when the new administration came in and the whole Congress flipped, they said, well, we're in charge. Let's go big now and make sure that the people get the help they need. And I'm not here to tell anybody how to vote. And I'm not one that gives a flip about anybody's politics, because you shouldn't worry about mine either. But I know when the politicians want to do something, they can do it. And in this case, they've put a lot of money out there for you guys, for all of you ladies and gentlemen that are in business. So please take advantage of this opportunity to get some free money to make sure that you remain in business. We need you in the small business community. We need you working. So please take advantage of it if you qualify. I'll go back and do a review here at this point because I'm coming to the end. I've spoken fast and I went through it a little faster than I thought it would, but it's quite a bit of information and it's worth repeating, okay? First draw, all of them, first draw, second draw, everybody has to apply before March 31st, 2021. That's 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks. So if you're on this webinar today and you have not applied, you only have 2 weeks left. Don't wait until the last minute. Oh, by the way, you have 2 weeks left, but the program ends if the money runs out too. That's the other caveat. You have 2 weeks left or until the money runs out. So if you have not been able to get yourself in and sit down and just do the application real quick, and the applications are not that big, they're quite small to be something as important as this. Do it today or tomorrow at the latest, because when the money runs out, it's gone. So first draw, remember, number one, payroll costs. But the other thing that goes along with that, you have to keep your employees working. You have to keep them on the payroll. You can't say, oh, okay, I'm going to get $72,000 and then I'm going to lay 4 people off. You can't do that. The number of people you have on that you put on there that you're covering in your payroll and your documents and everything, you have to maintain that number of people as you're using that money. And you just have to still show, this is why I say documentation, documentation, documentation. You have to show that you're still paying those people. Okay, that's very important. 60% of those funds need to be used to pay those employees and associated payroll tax that come along with that. You can use it for mortgage interest if you're buying your building that you're working on. You can use it for rent if you're renting. You can use it for utilities. And once again, worker protection costs, uninsured property in case you had some looting or vandalism. In some of the states, of course, they had the demonstrations, rioting, whatever you want to call it, and they tore up some businesses in that respect. I know they had some demonstrations here in San Antonio, but I know there was not as much looting and destruction of property like it was in some of the other states where people were upset about various issues. But you can get coverage for that too, if that did happen to you. Again, PPP loans have an interest rate of 1%. If you got it before June 5th, it's 2 years. If you got it afterwards, it's 5 years. But even with the 2-year mark, if you want to get it extended, talk to your lender and you can get that extended out to 5 years. You can get the funding for 8 or 24 weeks. It depends on what you might need as a business owner. You know better than we do. You don't have to put up any collateral to get these funds. You don't have to make any personal guarantees. Like sometimes you have to file this form personally guaranteeing if you have at least 20% ownership in the business. In this response, with this type funding, you don't have to show that 20% ownership and you don't have to personally guarantee the funds. And then no fees, no matter who's applying, no matter what your credit rating might be, you don't have to pay any fees either with the SBA lenders or with the other lenders, anybody that's has these funds available. And by the way, you have banks, you have credit unions, you have other organizations called CDFIs. And what a CDFI is it's called a Community Development Financial Institution. You also have some minority depository institutions. I've seen people get their funds from PayPal. That's one of the lenders and things like that. So if you do business with PayPal, that might be a good place that you want to start. And I want to stop at this point because my dogs are going crazy. I don't know if you can hear them, but because I see the UPS man is just coming up the driveway. UPS, I apologize for it, but that's what happens with live presentations, right? Okay, he's gone and they've settled down. Remember, 8 weeks or 24 weeks, no collateral, no personal guarantees, No fees apply, no matter what your credit rating might be, no matter who's applying, no matter what type of institution you're completing the paperwork with. Okay, no fees, and everybody should get the same treatment when it comes to these funds. Okay. Okay, now for the second draw. Remember the second draw, same thing. You must keep your employees working, keep them on the payroll. And very similar, same thing. Mortgage interest you can use it for, payroll costs, rent, utilities, worker protections, uninsured property damage, same thing. It's all the same. And again, this program completes March 31st, 2021 also. Same terms, 1%, just like the regular PPP funding on the first draw, 1%. But with the second draw though, they've set aside $25 billion for the second draw. And by the way, there's more coming because with the new legislation, more is coming for the second round. I just don't know what that is at this point, but they have more. And then max of 10 employees on some of it, loans of 250,000 or less. Maximum loan amount, of course, is 2 million, same thing as it was before. 2.5 times your monthly average for payroll, 2019, 2020, whichever you deem necessary. And then if you're in those NAIC codes of 72, looking at food service and accommodation, you can use the 3.5 times your monthly average, because they're the ones that probably took the hardest hit. The accommodations, because they had to shut down 100% and for a long, long time. Restaurants, at least, they've been slowly getting people back to work. It started with 25%, then they went up to 50%. And of course, then they went up to 75%. And now it's 100%. But I don't know if I'm going to a restaurant right now at 100% and nobody wearing masks. Even though I've been vaccinated, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Anyway, once again, keep your workers on the payroll. No collateral and personal guarantees, same thing, and no fees apply. Okay. First draw, 8 to 24 weeks. Keep your employees employed. 60% has to be used on targeted payroll costs. Second draw, 8 to 24 weeks. Keep your payroll the same. 60% must be used on payroll costs. 40% on other business related expenses. Okay. EIDL, we'll talk about that very quickly. With the EIDL, they removed that from the PPP. They had a part of it in there where if you were going to be getting a PPP funding and you got the 10,000, the 8,000, the 6,000, whatever it might be for EIDL, you got that advance, then what they were doing, they'd go in and do the formula and take that off from what you were receiving for PPP. SBA has put a fix in there now, and they're no longer doing that. They're not taking that. If you apply for $57,000 and you need that for the next 6 months, then you're going to get the $57,000 if you qualify for it. And they're not going to take away the $7,000 that they gave you as an EIDL advance. So they did finally get it corrected. And they also have what they call targeted EIDL funds available, but you don't have to do anything. The SBA personnel behind the scene are looking at the ones that didn't get it. And if you're in one of those targeted minority, super small businesses that didn't get it, or either didn't get the full amount of $10,000, then they're contacting those folks and letting them know what they need to do to get that. These funds should have no tax implications. Again, I'm not a CPA or an accountant, but they should have no tax implications. We do partner with some CPA firms, and they've said the same thing. 60% has to be used on payroll and 40% on other business-related expenses, okay? And what do we need to do now? Speak to your lender. If you didn't get this done already, do it today. Speak to your lender, speak to your banker. And when you go into the SBA website, you can either click on the lender match, where they'll look at who you are, what you're doing, and all that stuff, and they'll match somebody with you close to you. Or you can just look at the big list of all, it's the second way, you can look at the big list of all the SBA participating lenders, and you can choose one of those. But what I always recommend to my clients, if you have a relationship with the lender, go that route first. That group that got their money approved in one day, they wanted to know, should they go with another organization? And I said, no, just go with your lender that you have now. And they did, and they were so happy when I called them on Monday. We had another meeting on Monday to talk about some other issues. They were so happy that it was approved already. Then we have another client within our group. Miss Roxanna has a client. We were worrying about it because this client, unlike what you're going to do, this client decided to apply in multiple places. Don't do that, please. The client got money from 2 institutions. What do? Well, we talked with SBA, and well, naturally you need to give one of them back, because you're supposed to deal with one. Unless one of them was a first, one of them was a second, then you can keep it. But if both of them were first or both of them were second, you have to turn one of those, you have to return one of those funds, one of those batch of funds. So don't apply with multiple people. If you're going to go with your lender, go with your lender. If you want to go to another lender close to you, then go with another lender. Don't apply at 30 different places. One, please. Okay, look at your lender list and on sba.gov/PPP. This is where you can find a bunch of this information. They have frequently asked questions. They have some of the myths with the PPP program, some of the myths with the Eidl program. They have a wealth of information on there. And so if you have an hour, 2 hours to kill, you can become very smart in these PPP and Eidl programs. And in the end, I always say, make sure you seek assistance from your community resources. Your community resources are us here at MBDA, our Maestro Entrepreneur Center, Small Business Administration, SCORE, SBDC, and the COBRA unit within the SBDC. All of these folks are willing and ready to assist. You don't have to go it alone. But if you need some help, please reach out to us. And I'm sure by now, our friends Leslie and Roxanna have put their contact information into chat, so you guys can know exactly how to get in contact with us, and we can give you the assistance that you might need. And at that, I am going to step aside, and we have a few minutes if we have a couple questions that we might be able to get answered, and I'll stop talking at this point and see if Roxanna has some for me.
Thank you, Hal. Thank you for the information. I think it has been very, very helpful. And it's clear that there are new things that we should know about the PPP and the process for application. We do have many questions on the chat.
No way.
Yes. So the thing is, the webinar is actually going to be over soon at 11, but we have decided with Leslie to take more minutes because it's very important to answer those questions to our attendees. So we are going to start. Let me go to the first questions that actually somebody asked here. Hold on, I'm going to just want to make sure that, okay. The first question is, do we need to be concerned if our PPP-1 forgiveness application has not been forgiven? Submitted in November 2020.
That is a very good question. If you've submitted your loan forgiveness application and you haven't received a response yet, you can still apply for the second draw, as long as you qualify with under 300 people, can show a 25% loss quarter to quarter from 2019 to 2020. Okay, you can still apply if the SBA hadn't been able to get to it, or your lender hadn't been able to get to it, to determine if you're going to get the full, or some part of it forgiven. Yes, you can still apply for the second draw. And
Okay.
in some cases, by the way, in some cases, if you got the first draw, and for instance, you might have wanted $30,000, and I'm just throwing numbers out, but they gave you $20,000. You can go back and reapply in the first draw and try to extend that to get the full 30 because they've opened it up a little more now. And one of the things SBA is saying that if somebody wants to get just a little bit more and they don't need the full second draw of another 30,000, that you can get that. You can even get those funds extended even as you're going through the program. So good question. Very good
Yeah,
question.
that question was from Isabel Gonzaga.
Okay,
Okay,
very good. Thank
so
you. Thank you.
second question is from Sabrina, and she's asking, what if our business only has one employee and 2-3 freelance employees?
One employee and what now?
One one employee and 2 or 3 freelance employees.
Oh, okay. Well, the way this system works, it's all driven by payroll. So the main thing you have to do is keep good documented payroll records. So if you're doing payroll yourself, then you got to show your payroll documents. If you have a third party doing your payroll, then just get copies of your payroll documents for the last however many months and make sure you have those ready in a little packet. Just I'm like this. I'll have folders for every month last year. And I'd have PPP on it. I'd have EIDL on it, whatever I might have on it, because I'm kind of nerdish like that. But I would have all of that stuff in there. Anything that is associated with payroll or business expenses, I'd make copy of it and put it in there month to month. That way, whenever they come looking for me or asking me questions, I can just whip out whatever document I need, whatever months they need, or make them copies of every one of them. The main thing is you have to show that you're doing payroll. Even if you're a sole proprietor and you're the only one working in the business, you have to show that you're making payroll, consistent payroll.
Okay.
That's the important thing. Another good question.
Well, there is a question from Isabel. She's asking about the EIDL. This presentation, it wasn't about that, but I'm pretty sure you can answer that question, Hal. And is, can the EIDL loan be forgiven?
The EIDL is not a forgivable tool. It's not a forgivable financial tool that we were able to use. That one is a loan. And so far they've kept it that way. It's a low interest loan, but they've kept it a loan all the way through the process. Now, what they did make on there was they had that up to $10,000 that they'd give you that at first. And in many cases, that has been determined to be a grant in most cases. But as far as if you got the advance and then all of a sudden you got another $50,000, that $50,000, that's going to need to be paid back. And some of the people have already, I talked to a client yesterday and she said she set her payments to start next month as far as paying some of that back. So, because 2020 is gone, you're into 2021 now. And since EIDL has been used, you got to figure out with your lending institution how much you need to pay for X amount of years until it's paid off, maybe 5 years or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And for those that are interested in the EIDL loan, I think the application for this loan is until December. If you want to get
they've extended that out as far as, you're right. They've extended that out through as far as people applying for EIDL. That's a very good point, Roxanna. You can still apply for EIDL now if you didn't get it before. And it goes all the way to 31 December 2021. That is a very good point.
Okay, there is a very good question from Rosa. And she's asking, do you need to go with the same lender if you already took a PPP at the beginning for a second draw?
My recommendation to all of our business owners that we counsel with is that, yes, use the same lender. One, they already have your information. Things will move much quicker. You don't have to assemble all kinds of documentation because they got everything on file for you. So if you can, and you have a good record with those folks, use the same lender. If they gave you something the first time and you can show that you have the requirements filled for the second draw, then you should get it, and you should get it relatively quickly. So yes, use the same lender. If you go to another lender, it might take you much longer because they have to assemble all the packet and things like that.
Yeah, and I think we had mentioned this many times in the different webinars that we have done so far, that that we need to, we recommend to our clients to go to their bank because you already have that relationship. So as Hal mentioned, it's going to be easier. So there is another question from Diana Villarreal, and she's asking, if I receive first and second round PPP, can I reapply due to change from net income to gross income that changed in the month of March 2021? I'm a Schedule C filer.
Well, there's a perfect opportunity for that, for this individual to have a talk with their lender and let them know based on SBA guidance that if you already applied and you got X amount, but you needed a little bit more, you can have that extended and get the amount that fills into the required amount that you needed. Though that's a possibility also. But you have to definitely need to talk to your lender on that and let them know that according to SBA guidance, and you can look it up on the website, according to SBA guidance, that you can get an extension of those funds to come up to where you think it needs to be.
Okay.
The overall answer is yes.
Okay.
It might take some work.
One more. If use the earlier application before March, third revision is still okay?
Say that again, please.
If use the earlier application before March, third revision is still okay?
Third edition? No, if you're applying now, you need to
third revision.
Third revision, I'm sorry. No, if you're applying right now, you need to use, if you're going for first draw of PPP, you need to use the 8th edition, the 8th revision. That's the most up-to-date information on all the first round forms is March 3rd, 2021. And then the other forms came out March 3rd also, the Schedule C filers and all that stuff, but it came out March 3rd. Those are your most updated forms. So please, please, please use the most updated forms that you have.
There is a question from Maximo Martinez, and he say, can you please let us know the list of lenders of this PPP loan?
Yes, sba.gov/PPP. As soon as you open up the page, it'll say lender match. It'll say match your lender, or it'll say display a map with all the lenders. There's way too many of them for us to try to do that here on this call. But if you know of a lending institution, a bank or credit union or CDFI that does 7A type SBA loans, they qualify to do PPP lending as well.
When we got, I remember when we were in a SBA presentation and somebody asked about the list of lenders, they mentioned that the lenders that participate in the PPP1, they are completely different to the PPP2 because many banks, they just like they stop away and they say, we are not going to be in the second row. So I'm pretty sure when we share this presentation with the attendees, I'm going to try to get the list. I'm going to download the list because it's actually a PDF list from the SBA.
It's a PDF, that's why
I'm going to make your life easier and I'm going to send that list to all of you.
Even though you're making it very, very easy for them, it's very, very easy. Because as soon as you bring up the PPP page, when you start clicking through you start getting your first information, it's going to say, well, as soon as you go to sba.gov/PPP, that page, the first thing there is how to get in contact with lenders. Either you can do it by a lender match by clicking that button, or if you click the other link, it goes to display all the ones near you. And so I mean, it's very simple to find out who they are. If you bank with, let's say for instance, if you bank with maybe Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Chase or, Broadway Bank, Frost Bank, some of those institutions like that, those are usually the people. They do 7A lending. That means they do SBA loans. they're usually the ones that they use. Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union, Security Service Credit Union. These are some of the ones that do it. But I'm telling you, the list is broad, and there's no way in the world we could tell you who all is participating,
Yeah.
because just like Roxanna said,
Many people.
some of them decided not to do it because they're probably punch drunk from the last time. It did not go well the first time around,
Yeah.
but this time around it's much smoother.
One more, are we able to use payments to subcontractors as payroll expenses?
Payments to subcontractors. I don't, well, as far as PPP, it's not a covered one, but think about this. You have other business related expenses. And there you probably could get away with paying contractors, because that's a cost of doing business. Okay, I have the X million people. I have a contractor where I need to do X, Y, and Z. I got to bring these people in to do it because they specialize in that. Then that would be a business related expense. And that would probably fall under the 40% category.
Yeah, yeah.
You can verify that with your lending institution, but that should be the way they view that.
Can these funds be used to cover general liability insurance costs?
Insurance costs, general liability, like professional liability insurance and things like that. That's again a business related expense.
Yeah.
And so
can I reapply for EIDL if I didn't take all the funding that I was approved for?
there's no need to reapply, but talk with the lender and let them know that you didn't get the full amount, but now you want the full amount.
Yeah.
The SBA is telling people that you don't need to reapply. Your information is already in the system. And they were telling some folks we were on a town hall or something like that. And they were saying that if you reapply, it could clog up the system and you get just kicked out of the system because you already have one in there and it'll be a duplicate.
Yeah.
So they were saying, no, don't reapply. Talk with your lender, let them know that you request to get the remaining funds. And that it should be much easier that way.
Question from Jessica Ramirez. Will the application need us to provide tax ID or EIN number?
You're going to need to require, yes, you're going to need to put some of that information in there. Yes. In fact, for the first draw, they're asking for your EIN. They're asking for your NAICS code, your EIN, or social security number, or your ITIN.
Yeah.
So yes, you have to put that in there.
Yeah.
And
From
remember,
Melinda
if they ask you for something on that form and you don't supply it, it's going to negatively affect whether or not you get that money or not.
Okay, some question from Melinda Gonzalez. If a sole proprietor applied for a first draw and was approved and awarded on 3/15, can they apply for the second draw now?
They were approved on 3/15/2021.
Yeah.
Just got approved. That's
The first one, I think they can apply for the second
he's
draw.
one of my clients. Well, one of the things about PPP, in order to get the second draw, what they usually say is they want to show that you've used the funds that you already have. We want to show that you've already used it or that you've applied to have forgiveness. And if you just got the PPP approval yesterday after we talked, that's funny. Well, that's a good question. But one of the requirements is that to get the second draw
Is that you use the money from the first draw.
The other funds, yes.
I have a client that it happened exactly the same, and we contact someone from the SBA, and they say like, yeah, you can apply for the second draw even if you just got the money, but you need to prove that you already spent the money from the first draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means that if you were spending, and I'm just going to use an example, if you had that application out there, say for 2 months, and you've been using, say, EIDL funding to make payroll and all this stuff, Well, you need to show the payroll documents at some point, probably that, okay, then I did actually spend this money on payroll, but I had to use other sources because my application was stuck in transit or wherever. So that would be the discussion I would have with my lending institution.
Well, Maximo Martinez,
Linda.
he asked you a question in the beginning, and he said, "Thank you, Halbert. Please check your dog."
Do what?
So
Oh.
check your dog. I just want to put some spice in the.
Yeah, they're fine. They're fine. There's somebody in the house to take care of them.
Okay, there is a long question from Melinda Gonzalez, so I'm going to skip that one and we answer that one in the end because it's a very long question. So let's go with Mike Molina. I have not had a chance to file my tax last year. I filed for an extension. Do I qualify?
They can go off your taxes, Mike, and I'm glad you were able to join, Mike. That's the gentleman I talked to you guys about beforehand. They can use your taxes from 2019. As long as you were able to file your 2019 taxes, you should be good. 2020 taxes, of course, a lot of people may not have filed those yet, but you can use your 2019 taxes.
Yeah. From Jessica Ramirez, I think this is a very, she says, is online the only way to apply for PPP?
Well, it's not the only way, but it's the best way by any stretch of the imagination. Some of those lending institutions out there will not accept paper, but some of them will, and I don't know which will and which will not, but just all of the SBA guidance is try to make sure to do it online because that's the quickest way and the cleanest way to get everything completed. And then you upload whatever documents that they might need you to upload. But you would have to go pull down the list and then go lender by lender to find out if they will accept paper. Most of them, like SBA was saying on one of our calls, most of them are not going to accept the paper. They would, because things are so transparent and easy to do online. They're strongly recommended that everybody do it online.
Okay, so for Maximo Martinez, he's asking when is the last day to apply for a PPP loan? So it's March 31st. Okay, Maximo.
March 31st, 2021. Yes, last day. Please don't wait. Or remember, March 31st or until they run out of funds. If they run out of funds next Friday, you're done. So don't wait. Please don't wait. If you're thinking about doing it, do it today or tomorrow at the latest.
Okay, so Pam Cardenas, she's saying the last time I tried the SBA match, the response from the SBA was no match.
No match? Okay, then what I would say is who do you bank with and go with them.
Yeah, that's
if
what we
they're an SBA lender. If they're not an SBA lender, then check with some of the ones that do 7A type loans. 7A, what do I mean? An SBA loan. That's one form of small business administration loan. And in those institutions, they have what you call an SBA lender. So you can walk into the place and say, hey, you have an SBA lender in here? And they'll, like if you go to Wells Fargo, they have one. If you go to Randolph Brooks, they have one. If you go to Bank of America, they have one. And they'll put you in contact with that individual and they can give you the checklist of things that you might need. But then it would still be recommended to go back and put in the application online if you feel comfortable with the people you talk to.
Okay. And there is another question from Maximo, and he say, do you know about another programs that can help people affected in their businesses by COVID-19, for example, free trainings, courses, and all that stuff?
Yes, all those alphabet soup that I just mentioned to you. MBDA, Mike, that's the Minority Business Development Agency, Maestro Entrepreneur Center, Small Business Administration, SBDC, Small Business Development Center, SCORE, Service Corps Retired Executives, Cobra Centers. All of these people are doing some type of training as it relates to PPP, and they can help you, at least guide you in the right direction. They might not be able to sit down with you and walk you through the process. All of them might not be, but some of them can. but they're all doing some type of training to help people be what we call more resilient in these difficult times. That's exactly why they established our organization, was to just find the smallest of the small businesses and try to give them the tools and technical training like we did today to try to make them more resilient in this pandemic that we've experienced the last year.
I just want to also, Maximo, tell you, if you are still in the webinar, we help small businesses. I'm talking beside of the MBDA COVID-19 Business Resilience Center, and we provide like one-to-one virtual meetings with trainings in different things. I think I mentioned in the beginning that we provide information about access to capital. We are more like a informative and educational center. So we are in the middle of other organizations, and we all help each other. That's why we are doing this presentation today with Maestro, because we are trying to partnership with organizations that they are doing the same that we are doing. But if you want something specific, I don't know, we normally provide social media trainings, like one-to-one virtual meetings on that, access to new market. Just let us know, we can help you. And I'm pretty sure Maestro can do the same. And there are many organizations out there, and we always encourage all people to trying to get all those resources. Like, we are not competing each other. We just want to help small businesses because of this situation of the COVID-19. So there is a last question from Melinda Gonzalez, the question that I told you that is kind of long. It says, if a business owner has an LLC, files a Schedule C, and is part owner with his wife, doesn't that mean that they use the old formula and the first, second draw application doesn't apply to those that file as a sole proprietors?
Whoo, boy, that's a.
And then there's a second part.
Melinda, what are you doing? All right, Melinda.
Okay, I just wanted you answer that part because there is
no. That is a question for the lender or the CPA.
Yeah,
That is not a question that I can give on this call. But I do want you to capture that question and send it to me, because I want to do research on it. I have another meeting with her later on.
This is a very good question that she's asking. The second one, she say, if I'm using my 2019 taxes for payroll, but I don't currently have all the employees listed, can I still get PPP funds for all the employees, but use 60% for my current employees to pay myself?
Well, when they're asking for payroll information, it needs to be, if you're using 2019, then you're going to use, say for instance, you'll need, say just give an example. I need $8,000 a month. Then you go 2.5 times that per month for 6 months, pretty much 24 weeks. That's the amount, right? But now when you do that, they will say, okay, at some point, well, let me see your payroll documents, and you'll show those payroll documents. But then you get the money, and they're going to say, okay, when 10 months down the line, when you're applying for the forgiveness, they're going to say, okay, show me that you kept all these people employed. If you cannot show that you kept those people employed, then they're not going to forgive all the money. They'll only forgive a portion of it at that point, most likely.
Yeah, well, there are many
question,
people saying, thank you so much. Sorry for the long questions. I work with the West Side Development Corporation, and we are helping.
West Side, another partner, another one of our
that's
resource
amazing.
partners.
Yeah, thank you, Melinda. Yeah, some questions that, as Hal mentioned, I mean, he's not a CPA, he's not an accountant, so there are some questions that obviously he can't answer because it would be wrong, maybe, and he can provide the wrong information, and then it can be a problem. But I have another question from
If
Diana.
they set up with me, I can give them a list of CPAs that I feel.
Yeah, that's the other thing we have in our directory. We have an accountant and a CPA company. They are very good, and if you need their services, we can put you in contact with them. So I have From Diana Villarreal, I think you can answer this question very quick, Hal. She say, my current lender is saying I cannot reapply if I already received one and second PPP. Please advise. I think you mentioned
Oh,
something.
this sounds like she's already received a first draw and a second draw now. Yeah, there's only two draws. Now, what she might be able to do, and I don't know if this fits a category, if one of those she applied for, say, $150,000 and they gave her 100,000, but she can show she needed 150,000, then she might be able to apply, talk to them and say, hey, I want an extension of the application so that I could get the other 50,000 that I needed for payroll, because there's additional funding that went into the program, and the administration and the Department of Treasury has allowed people to be able to go back and try to get more money if they needed more money and were not able to get it. So the long answer is, to shorten it up, you should be able to do that without reapplying for the loan. You go back and talk to the lender and say, okay, I applied for 150, I got 100. Can we talk about getting me the other 50 so I can continue to do business?
Well, we have in the question and answer box, we didn't check, this is another questions that we received. I think Leslie copy and paste those on the chat, but I'm here on the box. So
tell Leslie to go ahead and answer them.
so there is a question from,
he knows the answer to them.
there is a question from Deborah, and she's asking, who will qualify for the Shuttered grant?
For the Shuttered grant, any kind of venue that received notification that they've got to shut their doors. And see, I'm looking at movie theaters, I'm looking at concert halls, I'm looking at big dance halls where they bring people in and teach you how to dance, or even like Cowboy Dance Hall, that's a nightclub. But any venue that they had to actually shut their doors down and not bring in their people to do that business, they call it shuttered venues. And because in some cases they were, like I say, concert halls. Like up in Austin, what's that thing called, where all the country singers and rock and roll singers go and do their thing up there in that area? I've only been there a couple of times, but it's really nice. Those type venues. And one group, I met with them on, and I'm trying to think, they have a branch here and they have a branch in Austin too. They teach people, they bring a bunch of people together to teach them the old ways, old Mexican habits. But they have to get them in groups to do that. So they had to shut their operations down, and all they could do is do things on webinars like we're doing right now. Well, that was a shuttered venue, and they're probably going to qualify for that loan, or for that grant. I'm sorry, for that grant. So any kind of venue where you would have been amassing big groups of people and they told you, you can't do this, you got to shut down operations, apply for that grant. And what they'll do is all the guidance is not out there yet, but they will pay you based on your 2019 payroll is what they're saying. And for instance, if your payroll or if your expenses were $250,000, it sounds like you'll get somewhere between 80 and 90% of that. And then you'll be able to go back into business. But they haven't completed all of the work yet. They're still working on it. They talk about it a little bit more every time I'm able to sit down and talk with or listen to an SBA webinar. They talk about it a little bit more, so they're getting closer and closer. And again, they added more funding to that also.
Okay, Hal, I know that you are probably tired of speaking, but we are almost done. I have a question from Joy Aguirre. What if you get PPP loan for 5 employees and then on quits? How does it affect PPP?
That is a good question. And some of that's going to come into play. And I don't know exactly how they're going to handle that part of it, except to say that if you get it for 5 employees and then you go let's say you go 1 month and one employee quits, but you don't hire that individual back and you don't fill that billet back, they're probably not going to give you a 100% forgiveness. I don't know 100% sure, but I'm thinking because they keep saying on all of the guidance, you got to keep your payroll the same, meaning that you got to keep your people employed. So what I would, if I was in that situation and I had that money and all of a sudden somebody quit, as quickly as possible, I'd hire somebody else to be in that position and show that I'm still paying that. Oh, there was a 2-week gap because I had to hire somebody else. And then I'd keep on going that way. That's just what I would do. Because the one consistent guidance is 60% of the payroll has to be used for payroll costs. And the other one is you got to keep the same level of employees that you had when you got the money.
Mhm.
So that's what that tells me.
Okay. I have a question from Maria Aguirre, and she say, I didn't apply for either PPP 1 or 2 for my salary because I didn't know it qualified. I also had minimal profit because I pay my employees and expenses first. Can I apply for my salary for both?
So did she apply at all for the different ones?
He didn't apply for PPP,
Didn't apply for anything. Well,
either for 2 or for the PPP 1 or 2.
Well, the first thing I would do is talk to a lender today. I would talk to a lender today and tell them.
I think in this case in specific, or someone that need more information about the PPP, we have our partners at the SBA. They are experts in the lender, like they are lender experts. So if you need their contact, they have been very, very proactive. They have been talking specifically with our clients. So if you guys need their information, let us know. We can put you in contact with them, and they help you in the process for the application if you want, and if you have any more questions about that.
Well, on that note though, the first thing this individual needs to do is talk to their lender.
Yeah.
Because if they haven't applied, they need to make sure to talk to them and because all the forms changed. And all the forms added in there, the independent contractors, they made sure to add in there you had the sole proprietor before, but they made sure to add all of these other ways and people that qualified for the money.
And I'm pretty sure she can apply because obviously the deadline is not over yet. And also she already used money for paying her employees. So these PPPs are the 60% for payroll. So I'm pretty sure you can apply and you can probably recover that money that you spent from your pocket, Maria.
And what it's going to be is, the thing is, you're going to say, again, I'm looking to get an extension of the funds because I didn't know that I could do that in before. That's why I say talk to the lender. That's the best place to go on this. SBA probably can't help them on that. The best thing to do is talk to that lender first.
From Bill Clark Kent, it says, if you received PPP funds under the first round of funding last year, can you apply for PPP funds under this new CARES Act? What if you have not exhausted all the funds from the first PPP?
Hey, Superman, how you doing? Clark Kent. I hadn't seen him in a long time. Well, once again, one of the things they say is go ahead and make sure you use the funds from the first round. Okay. And if you haven't done so, then the first thing I would do is talk to the lender to find out, or to talk, because you only got 2 weeks. And they may ask you something like, when are you going to show that you've expended those rounds or that first round? But in the guidance, it always says that you must spend the first round and then show a 25% decrease quarter to quarter over 2019 and 2020 and have under 300 employees. That's the guidance that comes out. If you can work out something else with the lender, then that's between you and the lender. Because if you have I look at it this way, and you've been in business a long time, Bill. So if you have a relationship with a lender, and of course, as successful as you've been, they're going to trust that you're going to use the money the right way, and they're probably going to work out something with you, I would imagine, because I know you've been around a long time. So I would once again go back to the lender and pose that very question to them. Say, I'm getting close to the end. I haven't quite spent it all, but this second round is getting ready to come to a close. I qualify, but I got a little more to spend, and go from there, because that's another very good question though.
Yeah, let me tell you another one. I have another one over here. If I got EIDL based on number of employees, the EIDL loan is a different program.
Say that again.
If I got an EIDL based on number of employees, the EIDL loan is different program.
There's the PPP program, and that's the Paycheck Protection. And then there's the EIDL, the Economic Disaster Loan, okay? Economic Impact Disaster Loan. One can be completely written off or at least forgiven, and that's PPP. EIDL is a loan and it must be paid back.
Mm-hmm.
Different programs, but they're not two EIDL programs. What they've done, they have an EIDL program from before. And since there were some people that either didn't get it or didn't get the amount they were looking for, and however it came out, the additional, when they did the new legislation, they put additional funding out there to do what we call targeted EIDL funding. Mm-hmm. And people that fit that category of either not getting it or not getting the full amount, SBA people behind the scenes are looking at those applications, and when they find the ones that fit the bill, they're going to contact those individuals and tell them what they need to do. That's how that's working. Okay. But there's really one EIDL program that's been extended through the end of this year, but there's some targeted measures out there where they're identifying people that either should have got it or should have got more, one or the other.
Okay. And I have like the last question from Rodolfo, and he say, do I qualify for a loan forgiveness on the first draw if I have to reduce the annual salary by more than 25% compared to the period between January 1st, 2020, March 31st, 2020?
I don't think I understood that fully. Please read
that. Do I
that.
qualify for loan forgiveness on the first draw if I had to reduce the annual salary by more than 25% compared to the period between January to March 2020?
Oh, in that case, on the application, it says that if you have a certain amount, then you must reduce it to this if it's more than that, and then you do 2.5 times that. That's in the formula. I don't know how you could go back and recoup any of that because they have specific amounts in there for a reason. And for instance, if a person in 2019 paid themselves $150,000, they would have to reduce that to $100,000 or something like that as to be a part of PPP, because it's just exceeding what they're willing to do. So the way the formula is set up, they have to comply with the formula, and I don't know that you can, I don't know that you can expand on that. I haven't heard anywhere, I haven't seen any question answered along the way in all of these months. I've been watching all these webinars and attending and completing them myself. I haven't seen anywhere where they change that formula. So I would say that might be a question that if you can get in contact with one of the members from the SBA, then maybe do that or talk to the lender, because that's a good question, a very good question, but they haven't been very flexible when it comes to the formula itself.
Okay, we don't have any more questions. I think we are running out of time. It's 12:32 already. I think this has been a very, very, very good and beneficial webinar for all our attendees. I just want to make sure that you got the information on the chat. There is my information and Halbert information, our email addresses. And if you want to contact us, please do it. Don't hesitate to do it. We are here to help you. I'm pretty sure Leslie provide her information as well. If you need some information, some support, some mentoring, advising about whatever related to your business, especially now with the COVID-19 situation, please contact us. We are here. We want to help you, and this is for free, so do it. Do it. We just want to encourage you all to do that.
Very good. I see one more question in there, and it's about who would qualify for the $100 million Community Navigator pilot program.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't see that one.
That's okay. And you know, I just happened to close out the presentation and it popped up there. So I was like, uh-oh, I know this individual too. And I want to say hi, Tessie, and the people that qualify for that $100 million, that's going to be the individual, probably nonprofits or funded programs that get contracts to do business like we do, like hopefully like Maestro Center does, hopefully like SBDC and people like that, and other people in the community that are doing work to help people make sure they get information and assistance relating to COVID-19. That's what it sounds like to me. They're still working out the details. They haven't given us all those details yet. As soon as I can find out something from Small Business Administration, I'll make sure to get it to Roxanna, and she'll send it out in mass emails to all of our attendees and participants in these programs.
For sure you will get the information, the PowerPoint, and also if you just want to rewatch this, Maestro Center, they do a live Facebook Live during these presentations. So you just can go over there and probably, rewatch the video, their presentation that we did today.
Well, I want to say thank you for the opportunity and working with you guys again, Leslie and Ms. Cervantes. Thank you guys very much for partnering with us. I love doing this type stuff, and I always like talking with our friends and business owners out in the community. So thank you all very much, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this webinar through Maestro. If you liked what you saw, next week we're going to have a webinar on filing your taxes, right? Goes hand in hand with PPP. How do you handle that? And we'll have two tax experts from Calverde Ferguson. So please join us next Wednesday from 11 to 12. And thank you again, Hal and Roxana, for appearing on this webinar. It was very informative, and thank you again. So everyone have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.